to another episode of the Plant-Based Jan Adventure Series. I'm trying to find the coolest places on the planet while also living a healthy lifestyle on the road. For me, that's plant-based. Now that is an adventure.
Glacier National Park. They call this the crown of the continent.
Glacier National Park. It's a vast wilderness of steep alpine peaks, ice age glacial features, and active glaciers. It's got pristine lakes, and it's teeming with wildlife: grizzlies, black bear, moose. You'll see mountain goats and sheep. Its other nickname is the crown of the continent. It's at the apex of the continent and one of the few places on our planet that features a triple divide. Its water flows to the Hudson Bay and the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The kicker is much of this magical park is accessible to us. This epic park is a challenge to put into a video, but here's how I'm going to break it down. I'll go over the layout, the entrances, and the main areas of Glacier. Next up, we'll hop in the car to take a drive on the famous Going to the Sun Road. I cannot wait to show you that road. The other mode of transportation to access even more wilderness and remote areas is by boat. Come out boating with me on 2 of the lakes. Then I'll show you where I saw all of this incredible wildlife that's in the videos, which is always my favorite part of any trip. Next up, let's go on a super scenic hike, get some exercise, and at the end, I'll go over some logistics if you want to plan your trip. Oh, and there's always food, a picnic or lunch involved somewhere, another one of my favorite subjects. Okay, let's do this. We'll start off with where in this beautiful world is Glacier National Park. It's in the United States in the northwest corner of the state of Montana, otherwise known as Big Sky Country. Glacier shares a border with Canada's Waterton Lakes Park in Alberta. It was the first international peace park in the world. Basically, Alberta and Montana got together, proposed, and an international peace park was formed. Don't forget your passport if you want to take a trip up and see that park. I did. I forgot mine, so that'll be another trip. There are 5 main entrances to the park. The main one, most popular one, is going to be the west entrance right here. Huckleberry hut. How cute. Going into the west side, the West Glacier entrance, you get some immediate gratification because just a few miles in, past Lake McDonald, are some of the most intense waterfalls, water features, rock formations with the creeks and the water just pouring over. It is just an amazing experience. There's a lot of people that hike down to some of these water features, and they're big, they're intense, they're fantastic. This is the base of Lake McDonald, and then on the west side you have Polebridge. The anchor of the microtown of Polebridge is the Polebridge Mercantile, otherwise known as the Merc. It's been around for 100 years, I believe. There's a saloon, a restaurant, a few services. Polebridge is not in the park, so you can check it out if you don't have a ticket. This northwest corner of Glacier National Park is certainly less populated, the road less traveled, which is a good thing because the infrastructure is minimal. Think very narrow, two-lane dirt roads in many places getting to the lakes. There's Bowman Lake and Kintla lakes, which are super serene and picturesque. If you're looking for a quieter park experience, this area might be the ticket for you if you have some extra time. And then you come around Highway 2, which is a spectacular drive. By the way, this goes from Washington State to New York. That is definitely another video. This is to Medicine entrance. It's fairly short with some hikes and lakes. And then you've got St.Mary entrance. St.Mary, Montana is the east entrance of the Going to the Sun Road. Year-round population is under 100 people, but it expands to service the busy summer months. There are 2 gas stations, a couple of RV parks, lodges, restaurants, a small grocery store, a couple of cute shops. The St. Mary Visitor Center features a very large parking lot to allow visitors to park and shuttle across the Going to the Sun Road. We spent most of our time on this trip in this area, in the St. Mary east side area, because they were doing a lot of construction in the West Glacier area. There were long delays and a very dusty road, some things like that. So we just chose to go in the east side entrances for the most part. Speaking of staying, we did bring our trailer, not this one though. I just wanted to take a picture of this chill dog who's really enjoying Glacier. And if you're wondering about trailers, as soon as you see some of those turns on Going to the Sun Road, you'll understand that they definitely have the length restriction. And then you have Mini Glacier entrance. You can't miss it. You take a left at Babb, Montana to get to Mini Glacier, and Babb makes St. Mary look like a metropolis. The Mini Glacier area has the Swiftcurrent Lodge, cabins, amenities, and lots of trails. Many of these trails go around the lakes, and they are the types of lakes that the moose love. I believe it's the organic lake marinated grasses and the shallow bottom of these pristine lakes. One giant moose crossed our path, and then we saw 3 others. One couple we talked to on the trail was hightailing it back to the lodge area because apparently a big grizzly had crossed a trail in front of some other hikers that they talked to. So Mini Glacier may be a wildlife hotspot. And then the park actually splits at the border, and this is Waterton Lakes up here. Perhaps the most famous feature going to the Sun Road, it puts you into the very heart of these glacier mountain peaks. The road is an engineering marvel cut right into steep rock in many places. Its narrow 2 lanes are contained in many places with just a short rock barrier. It's punctuated with waterfalls and weeping walls that flow beneath the road, but also spray and sheen the road with crystal clear melting snowpack. There are sweeping curves that present dramatic vistas around every corner, it seems like. And lush avalanche shoots and paths if you look up. By the way, this is where a lot of the wildlife like to hang out. The road itself is an engineering art. There's a series of arches, bridges that seamlessly blend into this epic environment. Even culverts are beautiful with that matching Montana rock. Going to the Sun Road is a little over 50 miles long. It was completed in 1933 after more than 20 years of construction and planning. Think surveyors hanging over cliffs and walking narrow ledges to get their measurements. The entire road was completely paved by 1952. If you make no stops, it's estimated that it'll take about 2 hours to drive from west to east or vice versa. Of course, driving through only takes place during the summer months because over 100 feet of snow can fall near the pass. At the end of the Little Ice Age around 1850, there were about 80 glaciers in what is now this whole area called Glacier National Park. Today there are 26 named glaciers that meet the size criteria of a glacier. That's 9 fewer than there were in 1966. Of those 26 remaining that they were showing in 2015, many are now too small to be considered a glacier. When they track these glaciers, for example, between 1966 and 2015, every named glacier in the park got smaller, some by more than 80%. I didn't hike up to a glacier, but I enjoyed the waterfalls and the lake, so maybe in some way I did. One of the beautiful features you see when you're driving the park are the lakes, waterfront driving. You might just have to get out onto the water. We did 2 different lakes on 2 distinctly different types of boats. On 2 Medicine Lake, it was a do-it-yourself skiff with an 8-horsepower engine.
One of the best ways to see the 2 Medicine Valley area is in 2 Medicine Lake. And we are cruising around right now in this little boat that we rented. They rent boats and kayaks and things with, this one has an 8 horsepower, so you can make a nice little loop around the lake. It'll probably take you about an hour unless you want to spend some extra time looking at the shoreline. It's a really beautiful lake. You can see the trails going all around the lake in different areas. Is that the smell out here is just intense pine. It's just really like a mountain clean air smell. Really nice.
Just enough to putz around. It's not a real big lake, and they supply life jackets. They supply everything. That was a very easy rental. And then on St.Mary Lake, we booked a tour boat. We actually booked it the day of. We just walked up and they had an availability for the last, I think it was the last tour of the day.
We're about to get on that boat for an hour-and-a-half cruise. It's just going to go by some falls, and it is really windy out.
So the Blackfeet Native American people, they're the indigenous culture that lived on this land for over 12,000 years. Water temperature right now is about 50 degrees, so if you want to go for a swim in the wind, it feels good for a second, and it doesn't feel so good after that. We're going to come around the corner here, you guys. It is a beautiful day. Regardless of the wind, it's gorgeous, so we're going to get that stunning St.Mary Lake view as we come around the corner.
A very cool feature of the tour boats is that they are historic wooden boats that have been beautifully refurbished and maintained. Some were built in the 1920s, and with that wilderness all around, you can kind of put yourself back 100 years as you slice through the waves.
Going to check out Bering Falls. I found it!
Onto the wildlife, where to see it. As you may have noticed, it's everywhere in this protected 1,000,000 acres. If you're looking for mountain sheep, you'll see them on trails, peeking out from trees. Always be aware of your surroundings. You'll see them grazing in groups in the meadows. And you'll also find them foraging on leftover human scraps in the parking lot of Logan Pass. Those scraps are probably unintentional because everybody should know the cardinal rule of wildlife engagement rules. You view them from a distance, very safe distance, and you never ever feed them. But it seems in this very, very busy parking lot, there's enough human activity, there's spilled snacks, and then I saw a baby in a backpack carrier, unbeknownst to her dad, throwing her Cheerios out. Oops.
He's looking for food.
I want him to ram the truck here.
I don't even have plates on it yet.
So the sheep migrate here and they want to claim their own parking spots. The rangers regularly chase them away and nicely discourage them. It's never a good idea to have humans and wild animals this close. By the way, those horns can weigh up to 30 pounds and they know how to use them. Now, what about the bears? There's grizzlies and there's black bears.
So we're trying to figure out if this is a grizzly or a black bear right here.
The park is home to one of the highest concentrations of grizzly bears in the lower 48. We saw one lumbering by the road near St. Mary's Two Dog Flats, but it disappeared in the trees before I could capture it on video. The sightings for both grizzlies and black bear are just random, kind of all over the park, with certain hot spots for different reasons. I will say drive carefully though, because all of the sightings that we saw, one grizzly and a couple of black bear, were all by the side of the road. You'll see the stunning snow-white fur of the mountain goats, which matches their winter terrain of snowy mountain peaks. These animals are exceptional climbers, and they hang out in higher elevations. They have cloven hooves where their hoof actually splits into two toes, and it's got a soft little underfoot that grabs and climbs the steepest slopes. Some actually look like they're vertical. They are just intense climbers. They also love salts, and they are biologically driven, maybe even desperate to get salt. It's a chemical counter to all the green vegetation they eat. In the wild, they find it naturally in mineral licks and things like that, but near human activity, there's salts by the trails. One ranger said that normally the very wild goats would run from humans at several hundred yards. When you walk on this boardwalk, make sure you don't upset the little marmots that run under. Oh, they're so cute. Looks like Bruce.
It does.
And now a word about the magnificent moose of Glacier. Without doing any prior research at all, we actually stumbled into one of the best areas for moose the very first day that we were there, the very first hike that we were out. We came across a mom and her calf, and that was from a great distance, I should say, at Fisher Cap Lake. This is right by the Swiftcurrent Lodge, a very easy hike in the mini glacier area. And then up the trail, there was a mighty male that made its way across our trail, and we followed him, again, at a great distance into the lake where we watched him dine on those organic marinated grasses. And that's kind of what you look for, these shallow lakes, marshy areas. This is the area where I mentioned that some fellow hikers said that they had a grizzly bear cross the trail in front of them. So a lot of wildlife in this area. The other good areas to see moose are Bowman Lake, and that was what I showed you way up in the northwest corner by Polebridge. And then I've also heard that Two Medicine Lake is another good area. If you're a hiker, there are many miles of trails. In fact, that's the only way to see a glacier up close. There are a few that you can see from a great distance from the road and certain vantage points, but you'll have to hike in to get really close to a glacier. If you're not much of a long distance hiker, there are also lots of other great opportunities because there are 700 miles of trails total. If you're not afraid of heights or a bit of technical hiking, here's the beginning of Highline Trail. It's pretty windy right now. And don't look down, just focus on those views. Just amazing. But let's head up to the place with all of those mountain goats that I showed you. It's Hidden Lake Trail. It's right off of Logan Pass, and I'm going to give you a few highlights. This is the trail up to Hidden Lake, and it's really nice. It's right off of Logan's Pass. You can see that there's a lot of visitors here of every type. This trail is a little over 5 miles round trip. It's estimated to be 5.3, 5.4 miles round trip. One of the amazing features is the infrastructure. This heavy boardwalk goes all the way from the paved trail at the Logan's Pass area to the Hidden Lake Overlook, which is a big platform area. And that overlook area is about 1.3 miles from Logan's Pass, from the parking lot area. So if you wanted to do just that, that would be a 2.6 mile rounder, and that would be a really nice hike. This boardwalk keeps everyone off of the meadows and these beautiful wildflowers and lets the sheep graze in peace. You'll see big groups of them. And it keeps us humans out of the wet areas. If you consider that this is a mountaintop and most of the time it is covered with snow. So it keeps us out of the little streams and the creeks that are coming down off of the mountains. Up here is where we're going to cross the Continental Divide. And then at the overlook, this big platform, the dominant feature is Bearhat Mountain. And of course, Hidden Lake, the namesake of this trail. Let's talk for a second about the logistics of getting into this park. With only one main road going through the heart of Glacier National Park, which is the Going to the Sun Road, and limited parking and facilities in all other areas like Mini Glacier and Two Medicine, the park system started a vehicle reservation system in 2021. This was a pilot program, so from June through September, if you wanted to enter with your own vehicle, you need a timed entry ticket, which is free except for a $2 processing fee. It's online. However, they're very challenging to get. They usually are sold out very quickly. The good news is that there are workarounds. You can get into the park during the summer months when the visitor counts are high. I put together this chart just to show you the visual how many visitors are here during the summer months. July is hitting over 700,000, which is the peak month. If you're thinking that you'll just drive through on the off months, there's a reason why. You're in the heart of a mountain range. Back to those workarounds, we used the first one. If you enter before 6 a.m. or after 3 p.m., you don't need a reservation. And the obvious, perhaps the very best workaround, is you can use the free park shuttle. It does get a little crowded sometimes, and sometimes they advise that there's waits to get on and off the shuttle at stops because there's quite a few people, but that's a really good way to get through the Going to the Sun Road and some of the areas of the park. The other workaround is if you book a camping or lodging, if you have a reservation for one of those, or have a commercial service booked like a boat rental or a tour, a boat tour, then you can use that to get in. I will also say that all of this video was shot mid-July 2023 at the absolute peak of the visitor traffic. Not knowing our exact schedule to make reservations, it was sort of impossible, so we chose to go in the main areas after 3 p.m. over several days. In a couple of situations, we were right at the entrance at 2:55 waiting to get in. On to dining, food. National parks typically don't have very many options, or very few, especially if you're eating healthy. So I bring picnics, and the goal is to make it incredibly easy, incredibly delicious, like over the top delicious. I have lots of quick recipes and info on my channel. And if you're interested in any of this, our beautiful planet, super healthy eating, please subscribe. I would love it if you did that. And I will leave you with one of my favorite glacier picnics. Here we've got our tofu Thai wraps. And these are so great. I made these back at the ranch or the trailer this morning. You can also make these in the motel. Let me show you how I did it. Working on that one right now. Thanks so much for coming along.